came into the insurance industry, and I remember coming home after like my first couple of weeks of work and saying, I can't believe this industry is still afloat. Like it was so archaic to me.
My name is Nick Berry, and this is another Connected Conversations in Insurance brought to you by Canopy Connect. Today, I have the one and only Mariah Gates. Mariah, go ahead and give yourself a quick intro and kind of talk about what your company is and what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here today. So I started a company called Accelerated Automation about 6 years ago, but I was an insurance agent at the time. So I was an insurance agent for 9 years, and the business was really born out of demand. I just started using a CRM called Agency Zoom. It's pretty popular at this point in my own agency, and I was sharing it. I love sharing best practices with other business owners and colleagues. So I was doing that, and people started asking me for help. Do you know how that goes when you start a business, right? You see a need and you fill a need. And so I started doing it in an official capacity, helping people with their CRM and their automation about 6 years ago. A year and a half ago, I sold my insurance agency. Now this is all we do. So it's taken a life of its own. From a personal perspective, I have a wonderful husband, 2 children, and we live in Idaho. And I'm probably one of the only people out there that is a woman in tech consulting and also rides horses and goes camping and fishing as well. Love technology, but also love the outdoors and staying close to nature.
It's funny that you're from Idaho. That's one of
Yeah.
the only states we can't crack. To get-
Really?
yes, because we have a big map of all of our customers, and I'm like, we had an engineer who said, "Hey, how come we don't have any customers like in Wyoming and Idaho?" I'm like, have you ever been there? There's
Yeah.
nothing west of the Mississippi, basically.
You're not wrong. I mean, so I'm originally from Western Washington and south of Seattle. And coming to Idaho, when you talk to people here that have lived here their whole lives, and a lot of people are transplants. There's a lot of people from Washington, Oregon, California who are moving into Idaho. But when I've talked to natives, they always say that Idaho is 10 years behind the rest of the country, and they're very proud of that.
Yeah.
So, from a technology standpoint, I can see why that would be hard. I recently had to shop my own insurance, which I hadn't done in, I don't know, like a decade. And looking at some of the agents' websites and how I was able to send them information and stuff, and being somebody that knows about solutions, like Canopy and all these other things and works in automation, I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is so frustrating. From that perspective, I wanted it to be so much easier than it really was. And I remember telling my husband, like, I'm just gonna like call all these agents and be like, listen, I tried to buy insurance from you and it was too hard, and I'm gonna come in there and I'm gonna automate it for you. Idaho is definitely behind the curve for sure.
Yeah, we had a friend that moved out there. Again, transplant from San Francisco, ended up
Yeah.
but she's in one of the ski resort cities. And I see her pictures. I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful. And I'm like, oh yeah, but it's out in the middle of nowhere. Like, and
There's
she,
less than 2 million people in the entire state.
yeah, and it's all densely populated in a few areas, I think.
Yeah, well, because it's very mountainous. So, like, Idaho is not very large geographically, but if you actually flattened the state of Idaho, this was a cool little fact that we learned when we moved here. If you would flatten Idaho, it'd be bigger than Texas. So, it is very, very mountainous. And yeah, there's very just pockets of people that live in different communities.
Well, I see some of your photos. Yeah, the horse pictures. My wife's youngest rode horses forever. She sees the pictures of horses. I'm like, no, I'm good. We live in Iowa. We don't need horses.
Yeah, I love them. They're the thing, I think if you own a business, when I was younger, people would say, you don't just want to like pay bills and die, right? And if you own a business, you're paying lots of bills and other people's bills through payroll and all these things. And it can be very stressful and a lot to take on. But I really believe everyone should have that thing that kind of clears their mind and feeds their soul. For me, it's riding horses. Sometimes it's hard for me to even think about work if I'm out at the barn and on my horse, and that's how I know it's that thing that's kind of feeding my soul. I just really enjoy doing it. So yeah.
Cool. Well, let's kind of talk about your journey. As a former insurance agency, you were kind of looking around, I assume, looking around, and the solutions that were available to you weren't great. And so you ended up with Agency Zoom. And from the outside, it looks like most agencies, when they come into that system, they have to kind of figure it out on their own. Or, now there's some solution providers. But back then, there wasn't any, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, back then, so when I got Agency Zoom, I came from the banking industry before insurance, and I worked for JP Morgan Chase. I was a bank manager, and that is the tech leader in the banking industry, right? That is, they're great at that in inventing new ways to make banking more convenient through technology. And I came into the insurance industry, and I remember coming home after like my first couple of weeks of work and saying, I can't believe this industry is still afloat. Like it was so archaic to me in comparison to banking. So, I was making my own little systems and I didn't have a tech background. I was like probably the last person on the face of the earth to join Facebook. I literally just fought it forever. So, journey wise, I had kind of found it through a marketing program that I was part of at the time for insurance agents. When I saw what a CRM could do for an insurance agent, to me, it was like, this is it. This is what I've been missing. This is what I needed in my business. I was trying to hire and scale and train employees and to get them to follow the processes that I had created as best practices was just, it felt impossible. But when I could build it into a CRM where it was visual, it was very easy to see. I could also see what they were doing because I think, like most business owners in the beginning, like I was very much a control freak. I wanted to know everything that they were doing and be able to keep eyes on it. And every single prospect and client just was so close to my heart because it was a reflection of my business, right? How they were treated by my staff and how we handled our customers and the quality of insurance we were writing. So I saw this solution and thought, oh my gosh, this is what I need to spend time on. And this is how I'm going to get people to do the things I want them to do in my business. And I can monitor it, I can track it, I can ensure quality. And I spent an entire year. I told my team, I will not quote insurance. I will not sell policies. I will not answer billing questions. This is on you guys. I am building Agency Zoom out for our team. And there was no help because it was when Agency Zoom was early on. It started in 2016. I picked it up in 2019. They had a very small team. I was giving feedback and asking lots of questions, I was getting help from like the founder because I was able to provide a lot of quality feedback early on to help with the product development. But yeah, I was just, I mean, we sent out so many wrong automated emails to our clients. Like we made so many mistakes. I had to teach my team to get really good at apologizing or just forward them to me, right? Someone gets mad, forward it to me. I would call them, I'm sorry, we have a new software. We're figuring it out. I didn't mean to send you that. So it was very difficult in the beginning, but I knew that from a scaling perspective for my business, that was what I needed. And I didn't have available. I was a captive agent. So I didn't even get to pick, like my own AMS system or anything like that. I was just stuck with the systems they gave us.
I've seen it, I've been in the space since 2015 and I've seen it all. I've seen the good, bad, and the ugly. And so many businesses, agencies are still running on paper. Like,
Or
like I,
Excel.
I think Excel's better than paper.
Oh, 100%. Or like notebooks. That one always kills me, which is what it used to be my agency. I mean, literally my CSR had a legal pad on her desk and that was what was going on with all our clients, whatever was or was not on that legal pad.
Yeah. And that's if your business runs that way, your business runs that way. I'm never going to shame anybody for not adopting tech, but it's such a, and especially this was a conversation I just had with Davey. If you don't provide a system where people can see and feel success, it's hard for them to figure out because you're the agency owner, right? You love this company, the thing you're building. Your staff, for most of them, it's a job.
Yeah.
It's it's there, and if they don't have a way to see the successes of themselves and you and the company, they have little to no ownership as far as the mentality wise side of things. So I think that's, and I applaud you for jumping, especially as a captive agent. I know they do not make it easy in those
No,
programs, their internal systems. There's no CRM. It's
no.
maybe something that legal approved of.
Yeah, from an automation perspective, so after I got Agency Zoom, I was a farmer's agent, and 6 months later, they launched their Salesforce version of their internal system. And I reviewed it and looked at it, and I was like, man, in comparison, like, I don't want to use that. I'm going to keep using this. And a pivotal spot for me was actually some of the agents that were on the advisory board for farmers helping to create that product. they were basically being told by the company that, some of the things that they really wanted and needed weren't going to happen, and usually because of legal, right? No, we don't want to do that. We don't want to give those abilities for those features. And so a lot of those agents then were reaching out who had kind of heard through the grapevine about Agency Zoom. And obviously I was sharing it, started asking questions. And when some of the larger agencies in the company started reaching out and asking for help and saying, well, we want these things, but it's not going to happen over here in this Salesforce system. For me, that was enough to say, okay, I'm not going to spend time on that. I'm really going to focus on my own systems. And when you say it, they make it hard for captive agents. I mean, you're 100% correct. And I can't fault any company, whether it be Farmers or Allstate or State Farm or any of these guys, for wanting to have all the data. That's kind of what it boils down to, right? We all know at this point how much value is in data. I mean, that can be worth more than your renewal premium in a lot of situations. And I don't blame the companies for wanting to have it. But as an agency owner and a business owner, you also need to have that data to make good, smart decisions. Not all of it rolls up to you in your captive systems. And so, I had to set up my own website, my own email, all of these things that I was, paying for as part of the captive environment. I went out and purchased again on my own because I knew long term that I needed to have these things in place for the stability of my own business. So, again, they're doing what's right for them, but you got to do what's right for you. We've had so many agents that we've worked with that have been able to make better decisions, to grow better, manage their agencies better. Because even in the captive world for Farmers, we still wrote business outside of Farmers. If they couldn't approve it, we were allowed to go out and write with other carriers. So from that perspective, we were very weird. And when you don't have your own system that you can use kind of on that more independent side, it was really difficult.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about some best practices for an agency that's new to CRMs and automation and things. Like, how do you approach that of, hey, we just bought Agency Zoom. What,
Yeah, I feel like we're doing like an agency Zoom promo commercial. I'm going to have to send Vertifor a bill, right?
right?
At the end of the day, you guys, there are a lot of solutions out there, whether it be agency Zoom or other CRM systems. There are a lot to choose from. There's ones that aren't even attached to the insurance industry too, right? If you're a independent agent and you have an AMS system, you've got, AMS 360 or Epic or using Links, all these different systems that are out there, right? Hawksoft. I really encourage you to pick a CRM that communicates well with your AMS. So I'm shooting myself a little bit in the foot here because there's going to be certain agencies that like Agency Zoom doesn't integrate well with. But at the end of the day, I've been doing this for 6 years now. We have worked with close to 1,000 agencies. And we also have a service where we're working with agencies for an entire year on all of their operations and tech. And what we've found through that is when you are trying to band-aid together your technology, it is just an unnecessary hurdle to try to come over. So the first thing I would recommend if you're trying to pick something is ask a lot of questions around integration. It's just going to make things easier for you long term. And does that mean that you might have to change your phone system or that you might have to make an update to your website or maybe you change your rater? Sure. But if your systems aren't easy to use for your staff, and they don't communicate well together, it is going to slow down your operations, which defeats the purpose of technology in general.
Yeah. I see a lot of agents don't have change management discussions with their team. They go, I'm going to buy this thing and dump it in somebody's lap and go, oh, good luck. And it doesn't matter if it's a high level, super in depth product like an AMS or a CRM, or it's even as like Canopy Connect's a pretty low lift as for most software packages.
Yeah.
And they'll still be like, oh, here you go figure it out with no plan to work with onboarding or go, okay, how can we implement these things? And I've been, in a CRM, I've been at a VA company, I've been at another AMS company, and now I'm at another software company, and I've seen the same thing over and over where there's no change management, there's no working like when as somebody who works on the enterprise side of things, when I work in an enterprise product, we get onboarding calls and we get like onboarding metrics. Like the onboarding manager will go, hey, these are the things we have to get done to get you through completing this thing. And I think a lot of software companies have failed agencies at that.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we consistently see tons of money wasted in agencies on technology that they buy, love the idea, never touch it. We hear this even just around agency Zoom. I bought it, 6 months ago or a year ago, and I haven't touched it. I haven't opened it. It's not easy to implement technology in your business, but you have to have really good leadership through that process. One of the things we started doing with our clients that were working on the operations and tech side is we survey their staff. We actually find out from the staff, like, what has been the history with change management? What's the stress level like? What are the things that are taking you the most time? How comfortable are you giving feedback to your agency manager or agency principal? Because we want to get a pulse on what's going on in the business. We do see a lot of this purchasing and throwing technology at problems, but the actual implementation is falling flat. Now, whether that is an expectation from the software company that they are going to help you or not help you, at the end of the day, you just need to know what level of your engagement is expected or is needed to make it successful, and then to support your team around it and to roll it out in a way that they understand the reason. Why are we doing this? What are we solving? How is this going to help? And then making sure that they are giving feedback and they're participating in it. We have a client right now who we're 6 months into helping him with his operations, and he has purchased 2 pieces of technology, didn't tell us about, didn't involve us in the demo. We had no idea. We're over here working on this other project, and all of a sudden he's like, by the way, I bought this and about that, and now I need to fill that into my projects. And we're like, what? What are you talking about? And we're having discussions with this person. So it's very easy to do from a business owner perspective. Like, especially when it's a smaller organization, you get to make decisions quickly, which is great, but also can throw everything off track if you make them too quickly. It's not well thought out. You're not involving your team. So definitely a good advice for implementing technology is slow down. Do the demo, take a look, play with the product, actually use the free trial, right? Click around in the system. If you can, try to find somebody in your agency to be the champion on that product. That really helps. Get a staff member who wants to try it out and then can really help to send that positive message throughout the business. They don't have big teams, to be able to kind of dig into all of it ahead of time. So
That's great. I
it's
was
so
just at
often.
Big Eye of Kentucky a few weeks ago, and I was on a tech panel, and that was my first suggestion. I was like, as somebody who's been selling and marketing software for 10 years, slow down.
Mhm.
You don't like too many sales reps try to one call close people. And I'm like, you can always just say, let's book another call in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Let me get the trial started. And more companies are offering trials to set things up. If there's no trial available, push it back until you can get a good conversation and have a conversation. So they'd be like, hey, listen, I want to talk to onboarding and find out what this is going to look like for my company.
Yeah. No, 100%. We're actually switching internally our own company systems. Obviously, we're not an insurance agency anymore, but we're switching our own complete operating system and implementing some new technology straight up front. They're like, this is the onboarding process, and it's going to take 7 to 15 business days to get you from purchase to like testing your own system. And then these are the things you have to do along the way. I really appreciated that. I'm able to follow it. It's easy. We have an onboarding process as well. It's all laid out, but if they can't kind of articulate it and give you a heads up, you can buy Canopy and turn it on and use it
Yeah.
tomorrow. But you're also not going to have any idea how to use it. And you're not going to have given your team any heads up, any rollout, any ability to have their feedback session. You definitely have to slow down.
What is your favorite automation you see agents implementing?
Favorite. Well, there's favorites because I am a really big advocate of like client education. We've worked with agents that do this, but I'm not a big fan of, the apples to apples, the minimum coverage limits, like price to price. In my experience, sell on price, die on price. And so there's things that can be put in place that are quick and easy, but my favorite ones are ones that really help with client education. So my personal favorite is video automation, like video email automation, where it's education based and it gets you and your team to be a person to the customer or the prospect and puts a face to the name. And saying that, out loud is kind of probably silly because I work in automation and technology, and there's AI for everything, and you can have AI talk to your prospects and gather information, do all these things. But people do business with people. And if you can stand out and be different, it grabs attention. So consistent follow up with video is one of my favorite things. Now, it's not something that our company just creates for all of our clients either. It's not even like a core part of our services because the agent has to record the material, right? You have to be willing to get on camera and put yourself into those videos. But that is one of my personal favorites. It's so unique. It's received so well by customers and prospects. Has a great closing ratio if you're selling insurance through that medium. Now, what do I think agents should probably focus on first? There's two big things. You've got to, first of all, know what your biggest problems are in your agency. Usually it's going to fall into sales or service, right? What one of those two buckets are you kind of struggling with? The most important thing is going to be around organization. So automation to follow up and stuff is great, but agencies that run on paper or on an Excel sheet, the lack of organization really causes a lot of chaos and opens the business up to a lot of exposure as well. So even just automation through organizations, like we work in agency Zoom, so it's very pipeline based, getting things organized. And then that second piece is like the follow up, automating the follow up. So those are the two ones that we want agents to focus on, get organized and follow up consistently.
I love that. And I've been trying, like every sales organization I've been in, like all I need you to do is read a script,
Yeah.
record it on Loom, and send it to me. Like,
Yeah.
and even now, so we use the script internally, so I can read a teleprompter, look at my thing, and then I just turn on the Underlord, and it will put my eyes on the camera. So you get that, and then you can just upload it. Like you don't even have to have anything fancy. I do a ton of stuff in unlisted YouTube channels, unlisted
Yeah.
YouTube playlists, and so then you just upload it there, and you link to it, and it plays. There's some, I don't know if Agency Zoom has the ability, but there's some that you can put the player in. But I've always told people just take a screenshot and link to it.
Yeah, like if you're using Loom, it has the GIF embed, right? So you can see
Yeah,
the little preview. Agency Zoom does have an integration for Loom and YouTube, which is pretty cool.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I said, it's just different. I feel like I always get myself in trouble when I talk about it because, like I said, it's like if you reached out and you're like, "Hey, Mariah, help me create video content for my system," I'd be like, "We don't do that." But it is really cool. And I would say even a step further, like around scripting, have an idea of what you want to talk about. And remember when you're recording yourself, if you guys are nervous to try this out, remember it's just you and the camera and you can record and repeat as many times as you want. But one thing I did learn in doing that in my own business was if you make a mistake or you blunder and you don't want to start over, the more real you are, the better the video is received. If it's really scripted or like clearly canned, I've seen one agent in particular I'm following right now who's getting really active on social media and she's clearly scripting what she's saying. And there's not a lot of influx in her voice and excitement or emotion. It's very kind of script reading. And I applaud her so much for starting. And she's probably going to look back on her content from the beginning, in a year or two and be like, oh my gosh, what was I doing? Because it takes time to evolve. So you should start. But I'm telling you guys, like the more real you are, the better your customers and prospects will respond. So if you mess up in a video and you're like, blah, 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 and you mess up your words, just be like, oh man, it must be a Monday. Anyways, what I meant to say, or is it 5 o'clock? Yeah, I don't know. Just something silly. Be yourself or whatever it is that's in your personality, because people will respect the fact that they're getting the raw you. There's so much that's fake these days, right? AI is everywhere, which is so cool, but people still appreciate like real human interaction. That's not going to go away.
Yeah, I have an older YouTube channel and I have some old YouTube videos and I don't take them down.
Yeah.
One of my first ones is still my featured video if you go to my YouTube channel. And it's terrible. And I'll never take it down just so I can get that reminder of where I am today. Or just like
Yeah.
this podcast. We do very little editing unless I say something that's going to get me in hot water with leadership. That's the only editing we do in our podcast episodes too.
Yeah.
And it's because that's the whole point of this. Like when I talked to Ray and we were talking about doing a podcast, I said, I want it to be authentic. I want to hang out with people I find interesting in the industry. I want to have fun conversations. I don't want it to be there, no scripting. Absolutely none. Kind of things resonate with people. And something I want to tell everybody in marketing. I don't care if one of our episodes only gets 34 views. It's still
Mhm.
that's not the point.
Yeah.
But
No, I completely agree with that. We do our own webinar series, and sometimes we'll have 10 or 15 people who show up for the webinar, and then we put it up on YouTube, and it might take it 6 months or a year to get several hundred views, but the information is there. And if you're creating quality, real information, even before this podcast, I asked my assistant, hey, is there a particular structure? Because some of them do. Some of them have a very particular structure, and we always want to be ready. And she's like, nope, you're going to talk about implementing tech. And like, I'm like, perfect. Those are my favorite ones. We just get to chat and talk about best practices and what we've experienced in the industry. Because like you said, I mean, why would you, I don't know, I guess for me, if it's too scripted or rehearsed, it's kind of boring.
yeah,
So
but
be yourself.
I do like that idea of sending videos as education pieces because and I push for everybody, and you've probably seen me and running my mouth. I push everybody, create content the way you're comfortable, but you also have to create content that ways other people want to receive and consume it. Same thing like when we're working on SOPs internally, I record a video and I do the screenshot hand step by step. Because if you send me a video, like a long form video, I'm not going to watch it. I can't follow along. There's just no way. I need the step-by-step screenshots and
Oh,
links
so
and
I'm very similar in that when I watch YouTube videos, if I'm looking for a particular piece and they don't have chapters, I'll take the little scroller and like, how it gives you the teeny little video preview and I'll scroll it along and be like, oh, that's the part of the system I'm looking for. And I'll stop and watch it. We create video training. We use Scribe How for our screenshots. And then we'll have like a written SOP because people learn in different ways. But that's also true of your customers. So if you're trying to add automation or reach more people or contact people more, think about all the ways that they could contact you. A little chat bot, like, but you're actually chatting with us. It'll
yeah,
pull the next available person and we can chat with you. Some people want to text, some email. Some people are going to love video. Some people want to jump on the phone, maybe chat through your website, use form submissions. Some people really like to deal with you in person, and other people would be perfectly happy if they didn't ever have to talk to somebody and they could buy insurance. So if you try to think of all the different ways, all the different potential customers, and just have those avenues available to your prospects, you're going to open yourself up to more opportunity.
yeah. And I've been preaching that before I even got into marketing. Just like you need to communicate where your customers want to communicate, not force your way of business. Now there are businesses where they have the flexibility, they have the wherewithal to be able to go, this is the only way we want to do business, but that's also going to severely limit who works with you.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, when you're selling insurance to the general public, you can have preferences. Just before this, we were on a call with one of our agents scoping out a project around his onboarding process. Once you sell a policy, what happens next? And this is another great piece of automation. Like when we ask agents this, we're talking to agents all day long, our team is, and we'll ask after you sell a policy, what next? And they kind of look at you funny and they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean, what next? What else do you send your client? Like, how do you stay in touch with them? Are you asking for referrals? Are you recommending things for them? Are you adding value consistently? And like most of them are saying, no, we just write the policy and then we talk to them about renewal. Or if they call and they need something. So we were working through this agent's onboarding process and we were talking about how onboarding is a really good opportunity to train your customers on how to best interact with your agency. So you should have available mediums for them to interact with you in the way that they want. But you can also present kind of best practices or help to train your client a little bit.
Yep.
So your communication out to them might say, for the fastest service, send us a text message, right? Or it might say to submit a claim directly, right? Press one or whatever, or call this phone number and we have a claims center, or maybe you have a commercial division, right? If you want help with your commercial insurance policy, you should email help at commercial.gates insurance or whatever. So you might have a preferred method, but then still let them know all the other ways they can communicate with you. But it's okay to help them, to try to get them to do what you want, I guess, right? Like you can email me your deck pages, but I would much prefer if you just clicked on this link and signed in and then it sends it to me and then I don't have to try to read your crinkled scanned piece of paper that you sent me with your deck page or you crossed everything out. We don't want that. So use those opportunities. Automation can be great for kind of training your client. The other area to train your client is who should they ask for at your agency. I don't know if you experienced this, but when I was, a new agent, it was just me. Everybody asked for me. Well, then I hired staff and I wanted to do other things in the business, but they still all wanted me. So through the onboarding and through the training of the client, we made me look like the dumbest person in the agency. Like my office manager was the expert, right? She used to say things like, no, you don't want Mariah to help you with the billing. She'll mess it up. Because it was true. I hadn't looked at it in a year. I didn't know where anything was.
Yeah.
I was doing other parts of the business. So that also is a very, very helpful piece of automation when it comes to onboarding, is like training them. Have the available options, but push them in the direction that works best kind of for your business.
That is a great advice. And it's like agents would be like, oh, well, have an app.
Great.
Cool. What other? Have an app, but maybe have a backup. Like, I don't even, my personal insurance agent, I just text them.
No.
And
Everyone has a
I prefer.
preference.
Yeah.
I mean, I had insurance clients that only would message me on Facebook. But I don't know. That's all they would do.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that that's something you should recommend as like a primary source of communication, but it happens, right? I mean, it happens. And then even on that video stuff, this is the other thing to keep in mind is, we loved the video pieces, and we had a client that we didn't know this. She was actually deaf. We had no idea because she'd always corresponded with us through email, and replied, and she was like, I love watching your videos, but I can't hear them. Could you add subtitles? And I was like, oh, of course. Yes, we'll add subtitles. Like, had no idea. So, as you use these different mediums and communicate with people, there'll be all sorts of different preferences that will come up through the woodworks. But it was a great improvement to have that, and that came from client feedback.
All of my kids would be mad if the captions weren't on.
Really?
Yeah. I'll go to my living room, I'll go turn my TV on. I'm like, who turned the captions on again?
Yeah. I do that in movies where, how they just get so quiet. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, keep in mind, you guys, like if it comes to videos and content, captions are really important, because think about, if you're listening to this, you've probably done this yourself, right? You're kind of like doom scrolling, maybe next to your spouse in bed, and you've got like the sound off, and you're looking through social media or reels, or you don't want your kids to hear everything that's coming on your phone. Captions are important for sure.
Yep. Yeah. Accessibility is an important aspect of everything online. So,
yeah.
Mariah, we're hitting 35 minutes. If anybody wants to talk to you, find out more about what your business does, what's the best way for them to find and contact you and get that conversation started?
Yeah. So we're at accelerated.automation.net. And that's the easiest way to reach out to us. So like I said, we have a little chat bot, so you can chat in there and reach out to us. You can also email us, call us from there, schedule a meeting, all that good stuff. And then if you're just on Facebook, we're all over Facebook too. So that's the other area you'll find us very, very easily.
All right. Awesome. And we're
Thank
good.
you.